From the Delta Sky Club
Welcome back, Miss Klein.
to the Jet Bridge, Delta Airlines relies on 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to power operations and serve customers faster. Together, we're putting 5G into the hands of ground staff so they can better assist on-the-go travelers with real-time information throughout the airport. This is elevating customer experience. This is Delta Airlines with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
This is Doug Gottlieb from All Ball with Doug Gottlieb. Listen, I'm going to get serious for a minute. The hate in our country is getting out of control. In fact, it's sadly at an all-time high. But it's going to take all of us to stop it. I mean, we're all on the same team in this country. So let's take a break from our hate so our team can regroup. We need to take a time out against hate. Visit standuptoallhate.org to help. And join me in calling for Time Out Against Hate by following at What's Up With Hate or posting the blue square emoji.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant Prime.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. John Schmeelk, Matthew Citak with you. The phone number is 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513, hashtag Giants Chat, or you know our handles at this point. You can check us out on there. Mr. Citak, hello?
Hello.
So I guess briefly, I told you guys I'm going to do my little self-scout today with you guys. I'll go through some of the stuff from the first half of the season. But I do feel like first we should probably talk a little bit about all the media from yesterday. We heard from Brian Dable again. We heard from Tommy DeVito. We heard from Drew Lock. We heard from Darius Slayton. We heard from Dexter Lawrence. Give me your reaction to everything that we heard in the locker room.
Okay, so I don't think we heard anything that we weren't expecting to hear, to be honest. It was a zoo in the locker room.
Yeah, it was. A lot of cameras.
Probably the busiest it's been all season. I thought, well, let's start with the quarterbacks that spoke, Tommy and Drew. I thought they both handled themselves very well. Not a surprise there.
Daniel's supposed to talk today, by the way, FYI.
Yes. I thought Tommy, he especially said nothing that I wasn't expecting. He's always been a very confident guy.
He went to generic, I'm the starting quarterback mode very, very, very quickly.
Yes.
And he nothing there.
Yeah.
Which is good, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, look, he's the starter. You want him to have that sort of mindset. So nothing really that I wasn't expecting from him. From Drew Lock, I understood where he was coming from when he said, like, look, I'm going to be honest. Of course, I was disappointed. Everyone wants to be the starter at their respective position. And when you come in thinking you're, the backup and then the starter gets benched, you obviously would then want to go in. And they skipped him to put Tommy in. I thought he handled himself very well. He said all the right things.
Said he was disappointed, but he would not allow that disappointment to show in the locker room.
Yes. And, I mean, I was standing there for his... Both of us were standing there for his entire time talking to the media, even before the cameras all got there.
Yep.
And the only thing I will say to you fans watching is be a little careful when you just see these quotes that are being posted online that might be taken a little bit out of context.
What was posted?
They're, not a surprise, but there were some reporters that were in the locker room that, despite Drew handling himself like a professional and saying all the right things, decided to just take the very snippets of him being like, of course I was disappointed. The one quote like, oh, that's a question I have to ask myself as well. Like some of the quotes that were being put online and like the headlines of articles kind of took things a little bit out of context or cut quotes short instead of putting the entire quote on there.
Oh, that's the definition of context.
In order to drive a certain narrative, because there obviously are some people that are looking to just drill down negative narratives. So my only request is don't just take those little snippets and think that that is all that the person said. All of these press conferences, the quotes, the transcripts, have been posted on Giants.com. There are videos. Go watch or read them yourself, and you be the judge. Don't let some people that write articles trying to drive a certain narrative, drive the way that you look at the situation.
Yeah, and I'll just say this. After they were done, you literally had Drew Lock sitting next to Tommy DeVito. Their lockers are right next to each other, and they were laughing and joking around like the whole second half of the media availability after both guys had finished talking.
Yeah, Drew mentioned that. Drew literally said, I could not be more happy for Tommy. My bond with him goes beyond football. Like, I consider him a brother, and I'm genuinely excited for him. While I might be disappointed, I'm very happy for my good friend to get this chance.
And Tommy even said earlier that day Daniel was helping him going through tape with Tampa and helping him out. So in that quarterback room, they understand this decision is not theirs, and I think that they're going to try to help each other out regardless. Then you got to the rest of the locker room with Dexter Lawrence and Darius Slayton, two of the veterans, and I kind of talked about this earlier in the week. Look, there are guys in this locker room that are fiercely loyal to Daniel Jones. They've been with him a long time. They're friends. They respect the way he goes about his business. They respect the way he plays the game. Especially a guy like Dexter Lawrence. You got a quarterback trying to run over linebackers. Like, they're going to respect the heck out of a guy that plays that way. So I think it was clear. Both guys have a lot of respect for Daniel. They think he's a really good quarterback. But at the same time, I think both guys also understand that the team's 2-8, and they've scored fewer points than any other team in the National Football League. And I think Darius Slayton had the quote that eventually, everyone understands this is a performance-based business. And if the performance isn't good enough, then I know a lot of attention has been paid to the injury guarantee in the future. And we all know that's there. But if the team was 4-6 or 5-5, that wouldn't matter. He'd be out there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I think the guys understand, and they, we could talk a little bit about last year when I go through my self-scout about, Tommy's performance last year and all that stuff. But look, they're going to do everything. The locker room was upbeat when we walked in. It was so loud and upbeat that we could barely hear what Tommy was saying when he was talking to the media. So the locker room is going to try to go out there and play their best football and try to get a win with Tommy at quarterback.
For sure. And, while the two veterans that spoke yesterday, Dexter and Darius, of course, as you mentioned, they are both fiercely loyal to Daniel Jones. They were all in the same draft class together. They came to the Giants the same year. So no surprise there that those guys are all a tight-knit group. And
DJ and Dex were roommates.
Yeah. And we've obviously seen over the years how far Darius Slayton would go to defend Daniel Jones.
Correct.
So I will say, though, that when Tommy was just beginning his media scrum yesterday, I took a look around. Almost the entire locker room was looking over, smiling, pretty much being
shouting and laughing things.
Yeah, it's Tommy's time. This locker room is not, from what we can gather and see at least, it does not seem like this locker room is falling apart or, about to riot because this quarterback decision was made. And I thought of all the players, Kayvon said it best yesterday when he was like, look, we are 2-8. Every single position on this team is up for grabs when you are 2-8. This is a business.
I didn't hear him say that. That's a good line.
Yeah. He's like, this is a business and we're paid to perform and to produce. And if we're not doing that and we're 2-8, then anyone's job could be on the line. So of everyone that spoke, I know Kayvon only had a couple of people there. I happened to just be standing there and I heard him say that. I thought that was just very well said. And I guess maybe the most level-headed or reasonable response of all the players, because the reality is the Giants are 2-8, and nobody is happy with that. Nobody is happy with these results, and everyone needs to get better.
No question. Anything else on that, or can I get into my little self-scout here real quick?
Get to the self-scout.
All right, so I gave the turnover stat at the beginning of the week. For the people that maybe didn't hear the show, I'll give it again. There were 3 or 4 different areas that I really focused on, or at least I found to be a focus once I kind of went through everything the Giants had done in the first half of the year. And the first part of this that I think has been underreported by the media in terms of how they've covered the team. The biggest reason, folks, the Giants are 2-8 is their turnover ratio, and it's not particularly close. They're -6 this year. Just to note, last year at this time when they were 2-8, they were -3. They then went +15 the remaining 7 games last year.
I was going to say, I looked this up before because I was writing Fact or Fiction, and obviously, part of this was that 3-game win streak and then the Week 18 game, but the Giants had a positive turnover differential in almost every game in the second half of the season last year.
+15 in the final 7 games.
Which they did lose some of those games, but almost every single game, positive turnover differential.
And this is
crazy.
why, one of my favorite sayings here. wins and losses is not a quarterback stat. And while Tommy DeVito did win those 3 straight last year, the Giants had 12 takeaways in those 3 games.
Yep.
That had a big thing to do with why they won those games.
6 in that Washington game alone.
Yes. So here are just a couple of numbers, and I'll get to these quickly because I know I've repeated them earlier in the week. But the Giants have not won the turnover battle in any game this year. Either they've been even or they've lost. I looked over the last 10 years back to 2013, since what I'll call the dark days, and the Giants did not have a longer single-season streak than that. They've had a couple of streaks that have gone from one year to the next. I don't count that. It's like DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak. It's got to come in one season. This isn't going from one year to the next. That's not the same. So, single-game streak, went back to 2013. I'm like, nope, nothing there. All right. And the Giants have had some bad years and bad turnover years, too, over that stretch. Nothing longer than 10. So I said, all right, well, I'm not looking back further than that. So I emailed our buddies over at Stack Inc., who can give us some of these numbers. And I said, hey, when's the last time the Giants had a 10-game streak in a single-season streak where they haven't won the turnover battle? Well, guess what? They haven't. So they went back to 1950. That's the longest these record exists. So 75 years of Giants football, 75 seasons. 10 straight games without winning the turnover battle. Longest streak in Giants history, which is amazing. Here are their other streaks, by the way. And this will get to my second point of this. Giants were 2-8, obviously, in this 10-game streak. They had a 9-game streak in 1976, and you'll find a trend here that these are all the worst seasons in the team's history. 1976, a 9-game streak, 0-9. 1973, an 8-game streak, 0-7-1. 2003, that was Jim Fossil's last year when it was just a debacle. 8-game streak, 0-8. So in the next 3 longest streaks, the Giants did not win a single game. This is how you know this stat. When we say it's not all the quarterback, all different quarterbacks in these years, folks. You don't win the turnover battle, you don't win games. Go back 2-5, 0-6, 2-5, 79, 83, and 2019. All bad seasons, all right? Now, here's why this is so important. I also had Stats Inc. poll what teams' records are when they win the turnover battle to a relative extent. So when teams are +3 or better, no surprise, they have an 89% winning percentage
This is
year.
all this season.
This season,
Okay.
yeah, 16-2. When they're +2 in turnover ratio, they win 77% of the time. They're 30-9. When they're +1 in turnover ratio, Matthew Citak, what do you think their winning percentage is? Just +1. +1 on its own, that's it.
65%.
70%.
Wow. I thought
40
I was going high with 65.
So did I. 45-19. 70%. And then when their teams are even, exactly 500.
Wow.
This is not accounting Monday night's game, by the way. And I doubt that changed the numbers here. 44-44. And obviously, the numbers are the polar opposite. So when you lose, when you're -1, you win 30% of the time, 23% when you're -2, and then 11% when you're -3. So you want to know why the Giants are 2-8 this year? That's why. In fact, I didn't look at it, Matt. Their 2 wins. Were those the 2 games where the Giants were even in turnover ratio? I'm going to look that up. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Do me a favor, look that up.
Cleveland, they were even.
And they won that game. How about their other win?
And Seattle, they were even.
There you go. Every game where they've been, is that their only 2 even games this year? Have they lost all the other games?
Week 1, they were even as well.
Okay. They had a turnover on downs, which doesn't count that.
Bengals game, they were even.
Okay. So they're 2
That's it.
So they're 2-2 when they're even.
Would you look
Shocking.
at that?
500. Which means they have not won a game where they've lost a turnover battle. All right? Now, some of this is on the offensive side of the ball, but they're in the middle of the league in terms of turnovers this year. It's fine. They're not taking the ball enough away. So, yes, offense is a big reason here, and we'll get into the red zone in a second. But when you only have 8 takeaways in a year, 7 fumble recoveries, 1 interception in week 1 by Darius Muasau on a deflected pass, the defense has not helped either putting points on the board themselves. The Giants have not started 1 drive inside the other team's 20-yard line yet this year. Not one, the whole year. The defense, in terms of getting those takeaways, it's got to get better. And honestly, and I've talked about this a lot last offseason when we looked at their +12 ratio last year, and I said, it probably inflated their record last year. It was better than it should have been. A lot of it's luck. At some point, they're not leading the league in sacks anymore. What are they, 2nd in sacks right now? 3rd in sacks?
Second, but the Broncos have played 1 extra game.
You would figure on one of these pressures, the quarterback would get hit as he throws, or he just airmail a ball and it'll go right to a Giants defender. So the Giants haven't had a lot of luck here either, but they also haven't made a lot of plays, like stepping in front of a receiver. Hasn't been a lot of dropped interceptions this year, Matt. They just haven't had a lot of opportunity. So number one of the self-scout for me is that the defense has to start creating more takeaways. There just hasn't been enough of those.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to look back at the 2022 season to see how they fared. They had 8 different games where they won the turnover battle. They went 6-2 in those games, with one of the losses being the last game of the season in which Davis Webb was starting at quarterback. So if you take that game out, 6-1 in games that they won the turnover differential 2 years ago when they made the playoffs.
And I think that year they were about even, right? Through the whole year, they're like +2 or +3, I think, over the course of that full year, if I'm not mistaken.
They were +3.
+3, yeah. So there's a good reason why.
16 turnovers on offense, second best, second fewest in the NFL.
No, when you can run the ball the way they did with the quarterback, that helps. Okay, so that's the turnover part of the deal. Now I want to get to the offense. Moving the ball up and down the field, they're not bad. You know, you look at all the offensive metrics, they're around like 21st or 22nd, which puts you right in the bottom third, the bottom of the middle third of the league. And if I told you before the season the Giants had the 20th ranked offense, you know, I think we would have been disappointed, but we would have been like, all right,
it's an
not
improvement.
Terrible. It's better than it was. Same thing for pass protection. They're around 22nd, I think, in pressure rate allowed. So that's where they are in terms of, like, I'm talking like DVOA, EPA, all like the advanced metrics you want to look at, right? So the problem is that they're last in points. And in the end, you look at the scoreboard, people don't care about your yards. They care about your points, right? It's like the election. The electoral college counts. Popular vote's nice. The electoral college is what counts. That's where the points go up on the board, right? Same for the NFL. It's great to have yards, but if you don't score points with the yards, nobody cares. It just doesn't matter in the end, right?
Yep. So
the Giants' red zone offense, as we all have detailed extraneously this year, has been brutal. It's 39% touchdown rate in the red zone. So I went back, I looked through every play-by-play, and I went through every red zone possession. And I watched a lot of the video. I didn't watch every video, but I watched a lot of them. And here are the major problems, okay? For one, inside the 30-yard line, the team has a passer rating of 67. That's a problem. They've not passed well enough. And a lot of that has to do with the turnovers in that area of the field. In drives where they've gotten into the red zone, they have 7 turnovers this year. 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles lost, and a turnover on downs in week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings.
That alone is crazy.
7 touchdowns. 7 potential scores, whether it's field goals or touchdowns taken off the board, okay? They've had 3 touchdowns taken off the board because of penalties. Literally, touchdowns on the field, taken off the board. 2 OPIs, I believe, and then
Theo
1 illegal
Johnson,
man downfield.
Darius Slayton with Wandell. What was the third?
The illegal man downfield on the pass to Manhurts. So
yeah.
Those are the 3 that had touchdowns taken off the board. So that's 10 potential touchdowns right there. And this gets back to, I think, the more telling stat rather than the touchdown rate. It's the scoring rate. So this is the one that kind of got me the most. And where's the exact number so I have it? Here we go. Scoring rate inside the red zone. Not touchdown, just scoring. 71%. Which means just under a third of the times they get into the red zone, they come away with 0 points. Can't win games doing that. At least kick a field goal. By the way, they've missed 4 of those field goals too, which hasn't helped. And they haven't gotten a 2-point conversion either, which takes points off the board. That hasn't helped either. And they've mixed some extra points. That hasn't helped either. So put that all together, which why they're not scoring points, that's the reason. And I tried to find like common threads, like what can the coaches do differently? You know, they're 31st in EPA per play in the red zone, 32nd EPA per dropback. Their rushing numbers are a little bit better. So the one thing I think they can maybe do a little bit more of, Matt, is lean into the run game a little bit more in the red zone. When you look at that, there's 17th in rush success rate in the red zone. Like, that's pretty good. Rush success rate, folks, either you get a first down or you get half the yardage necessary to get a first down if it's first or second down. So that's kind of what I'm looking at in terms of how you can make the red zone a little bit better, is maybe lean into the run game a little bit more, especially how they've really moved people off the line of scrimmage and run it with Tracy pretty well since he's become the starter.
Yeah, so I just looked it up. If the 10 touchdowns you said, or 10 potential touchdowns that were taken away from
10
either
scores, right,
penalties or takeaways. This is obviously a little like wishful thing, but let's just, if they had got a touchdown on just half of those,
5 of the 10.
5 of the 10.
Okay.
Instead of ranking 32nd, dead last in red zone offense, they would rank 13th.
Oh my gosh, does it go up that high?
It does because, unfortunately, they've only had 28 total trips into the red zone. So when you add 5 instead of 11 and 16, that percentage goes up a significant amount.
Now, my math, though, 9 teams have had fewer red zone trips than the Giants have had, based on what I looked over the bye week. So it's not a great number, but it's not a terrible number.
So the Giants are 8th in red zone, 8th fewest red zone attempts.
I did these numbers before they played the games last week. So teams have obviously passed the Giants since then with the bye.
From hobby farmers to weekend gardeners and everyone in between, Tractor Supply trusts 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to make shopping more personal. Together, we're connecting over 2,200 stores with 5G business internet and powering AI so team members can match shoppers with products faster.
You're all set.
This is enriching customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
So that makes sense. So that's not a great number. You want it to be better, but it's also not where it was last year.
Yeah,
last or next to last, things like that. So those are the two things on offense that really got me. I thought takeaways were very important, and then defensively, we already talked about not getting any takeaways. The other thing with me on defense that I looked at, and one more thing on offense, by the way, running wise, tied for 9th in rushes of 20-plus yards. They've gotten explosive runs. That's not a problem, despite all the Saquon Barkley panic.
Tracy's provided a big boost in that area.
100%. Here's the bigger problem. 29th in terms of explosive pass play rate, which means percentage of your throws that go. I believe that's for 15-plus yards. And if you want a more of a basic stat, 25th on overall plays of 20-plus yards, but only 19 completions of 20-plus yards. That's 28th in the NFL. And again, this was before last week's games. So it's probably gotten worse since then because teams have probably passed them in terms of completions of 20-plus. So if you're not going to score in the red zone and you're not going to get explosive pass plays that get you touchdowns from outside the red zone, guess what? You're not going to score points. So those are the things on offense that got me. And then on defense, really, Matt, they've done a good job of not allowing a ton of explosive pass plays. They've done a pretty good job of that. I had that number here somewhere. Tied for 20th in 20-plus completions. Not terrible. The problem is that when teams do throw down the field, this was one that I found that I did not like. So when teams throw it 20-plus yards down the field, they have a perfect quarterback ready against the Giants this year. 158.3.
It's not great.
No, not what you're looking for. So they prevented a lot of attempts. Like I said, they're kind of in the middle of the pack there, and I bet you that's gotten better since more teams allowed 20-plus yard passes last week, right, heading into the bye as they've played more games, so that'll help that ranking. But the efficiency on those deep passes, not good. Think about it. And even when I saw the number, I thought about how many deep passes have the Giants knocked away or forced incompletions on this year. Not a lot came to mind, just thinking about it off the top of my head. So that number made sense to me. But what's really killing them here, 30th in the league in 10-plus yard rushes allowed. Last in the league in terms of 20-plus yard rushes allowed, 15 of those. So Shane Bowen talked about that today when he did his coordinator press conference. You got to figure out a way to stop these explosive runs. Down to down, it's not terrible, but it's 3 or 4 20-plus yard runs a week. Can't have that.
I mean, the game that in particular that comes to mind is that Eagles game with Saquon. I mean, it's
perfect example.
He had 3 runs of 30, 40, and 60 yards. Take those 3 runs out, and the Giants did a great job slowing him down in every other run. But you can't just take those 3 plays out, and then that obviously makes the final total numbers look as bad as they did in the final box score.
6th in pressure rate, 39%. Again, this is not including last week's games, but I did this calculations last Saturday or Friday when I decided to do work on my Friday off for some reason. They're first in sack rate at 11%, and they were first in sacks, now second in sacks, to your point, behind the Denver Broncos. But the Broncos have one more game. So, again, the pressure's been good. They haven't allowed a ton of explosive pass plays over the top, but the explosive runs in the run game and then takeaways, those are the things that you have to do better if you're on defense. And if you could turn a couple of those things around a little bit in the second half of the year, I think you could figure out a way to win 3 games the rest of the way. Win maybe 4 games the rest of the way if everything goes in your direction. Matt, there are winnable games here. Tampa Bay, they're not going to, I don't think they're going to have Tristan Wirfs this week, right?
Well, he was limited yesterday.
Was he limited yesterday? So we'll see about him. Mike Evans looks like he's back. Chris Godwin obviously is out for the year. So We'll see how they're able to do. But the Bucs are not a great football team. They're under 500, okay?
I would say their offense is great. Even with even since Chris Godwin and the 3 weeks they were playing without Mike Evans, they still put up a lot of points, but their defense has really struggled this season.
Now, again, those games are also against the Falcons, who have a really poor defense. So we'll see. The Ravens believe it or not, the Ravens actually have a really poor defense this year. I know people don't think about that. Like, Ravens' poor defense, huh? Like, what's going on here? Their defense stinks.
Pass defense stinks.
It's a big problem for them. Their pass defense is no good. But, yes, their offense is, and Baker Mayfield's having a heck of a year. They have 2 good running backs that do a good job. We talked about Mike Evans. But to your point, their defense has really struggled this year. You look at any of the metrics, bottom 4 or 5 in the league, and most of the efficiency metrics, stopping the run, which you wouldn't think with like Vita Vea there, right? And the pass too. It's been a rough sledding for them. Now they're getting some guys healthy, back from injury.
Jamel Dean might be back this week.
Exactly, a corner. So I think maybe it'll be a little bit better, but this is not as long as Tommy DeVito can handle their blitzes, because the Bucs do still send a ton of blitzes with Todd Bowles, the Giants should be able to move the ball against this defense a little bit. Now, we've said that before, famous last words, I get that, but they should be able to move the ball a little bit.
Yeah, no, they definitely should. But just going back to the defense for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, you talked about the weaknesses. Well, there are 2 areas that the Giants rank dead last in the NFL on defense. Interceptions, with just the one that you mentioned, and rushing yards allowed per attempt, which makes perfect sense given the numbers you just gave with all those explosive runs. So if you could limit those big plays and, create an explosive play on defense, get that interception, because Baker's been playing great, but he likes to sling the ball. He's not afraid to throw it downfield, throw it into traffic. I mean, this on paper is an opportunity where the Giants at least should have some chances to come down with an interception.
Baker does not lack confidence.
No, him and Tommy are similar in that regard. Yeah, he's going to be slinging it all across the field, especially with Chris Godwin out. Obviously, he was a huge part of their offense. Baker's going to spread the ball out a little more. I mean, obviously, Mike Evans seems like he's going to return. You would think that at least of the wide receivers, he will probably lead them in targets. I guess it depends how much he's able to actually play, because coming back from a hamstring injury, hasn't played in a month. They don't want to, put too much on his plate and have him re-injure the hamstring.
And that looked
out.
like a bad hamstring, by the way. It was one of those where he reached and it looked like, somebody had the sniper rifle and they shot him in the back of the leg, and it was like, oh! It was like Dak throwing the pass. It looked like that. And that obviously put Dak out for the year. Evans is bad, and it looked bad.
The situation that I kind of think of when it comes to this is Nico Collins just came back from a hamstring injury himself. Now, he was out longer than Mike Evans, so maybe his was a little more severe. But he just came back, played Monday night, and he did not come close to playing a full allotment of snaps.
He was a half the game, right? Something like that, I think.
I'll pull up exactly how many snaps he played. But, I mean, he had that one play that got called back with a penalty on the very first play of the game.
Of course, then the Cowboys proceeded to give up another big play like one play later, which was hilarious.
But then he missed the next 7 games. So, yeah, he was on the field for 47% of their offensive snaps. About half. And so, I mean, I guess it depends how the game is going, but I would think that the Buccaneers will, at least in this first game back, want to play it a little cautious with their best.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Their best pass catcher.
And I like that matchup for Banks. I think he's better against those bigger wide receivers than the quick guys. So we'll see.
I agree, but Baker is going to spread the ball around. I mean, we've seen the running backs get heavily involved and used in the passing game.
They catch the ball a lot.
I mean, Rachaad White is almost more of a pass catcher than he is a running back this season for them. Because Bucky Irving is their leading rusher by a decent margin, at least in terms of efficiency. Rachaad White, though, is a big part of their passing game. Kate Otten,
I was going to say,
especially once Godwin and Evans went down, he basically stepped up and became their number one pass catcher. The Giants have played well against tight ends this season, but I would expect that Baker Mayfield is going to get Kate Otten heavily involved. And then you have some of these, secondary receivers, very familiar face in Sterling Shepard, making his return to MetLife Stadium.
Trey Palmer.
I'm sure that Baker will want to get Shep involved and get him some touches in this homecoming of sorts. Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan,
he was out with the hamstring too, so he's probably going to make his return this week.
Yeah, so they definitely have talent all around their playmakers. Baker's going to spread the ball around. This is a good offense, but again, a good chance for the defense to finally get their first interception since week 1.
And Matt and Paul will have your full preview of the game tomorrow. I want to get to your calls now at 201-939-4513.
Real quick, just
sure,
real
please.
quick.
What do you got?
Coach Dable had his flyby as we've been
what do we
on
got?
air. He said that everyone is practicing again today for the second straight day, which is good. And he said that Kayvon looked good in practice. He's encouraged by the chances of Kayvon being able to play on Sunday.
And I talked to Kayvon briefly. I asked him if he's going to have to wear any sort of apparatus on his arm to play. He said no, he's not going to have to do that. So hopefully he should be good to go if he's healthy 100%. So good to see him out there on the field. We'll see how they split the snaps with him, Ojulari and Brian Burns. All right, 201-939-4513. Giants Huddle Podcast, folks. Check it out. We got a bunch of stuff on the feed right now. Chris Bizignano from earlier in the week is still up there. That's a couple shows back. Draft season's up there, too, with Tony Pauline. Dane Brugler joins us. Check that on the draft season feed as well. Really good talking about the draft class. Brugler put out his top 50. A lot of good stuff in there. Make sure you go check that out. And then most recently up there, we have Giants Hangout, correct, Pearson? Right, so that's up there with Mr. Citak, Madeline, and Russ Salzberg. And then at some point, her playbook's going to go up. Is that up yet, Pearson? It is. All right, so her playbook is up as well. So a lot of stuff up there in the Giants Huddle Podcast. Tomorrow, we're going to have Wando Robinson on. I'm going to do that interview with him shortly after the show today and with our normal kind of Friday game preview. So make sure you go check that out. Giants.com, Giants mobile app, Giants.com/podcast. Just search for Giants Huddle or Giants Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform. All right, let's go to Aiden in New Jersey. He's up next. Hi, Aiden.
Hi, I want to talk about Daniel Jones since I couldn't get in the other day.
Sure. What do you got?
Yeah, so I'm really bummed as every Giants fan is out there that it didn't work out. And I feel like he was in the worst situation. I'll explain why. First off, he had 3 head coaches in his first 4 seasons, and he was brought in by Gettleman. In those circumstances where he's learning different he's in different personnel in learning any systems. Historically, I feel like, or just in general, I feel like there's no way you could be a true playoff contender. Can you think of any situation where anyone's actually been able to succeed?
No, Aiden, you're right about that, but that's why but no, you're 100% right about that, and that's why they wanted to give him another couple years. This is now his 3rd year with Dable. He had a much better situation around him this year with an offensive line, a good wide receiver core. And that's why, especially for us, who thought he would come out and have the best year of his career, that hasn't necessarily materialized, which is why I think the move's being made.
Yeah, and the other thing is that, Brian Dable was able to develop Josh Allen, and I feel like with Daniel Jones having the weapons around him now with Neighbors and Wando Robinson and Slayton even, I feel like even he was put in the best situation, but then after 2022, but he couldn't execute from there. And the other thing is I feel like Daniel just have it in him. I feel like the reason, like going back to the coaching changes and stuff, why Eli was able to get those 2 Super Bowls, he had Coughlin that whole time. He was able to work in one similar system, and then Daniel Jones, he's constantly changing things.
Yeah, but he hasn't in the last 3 years, Aiden. That's the point, right? You know what I mean? Like you can say about that for the first 4 years, but the last 3 has been with the same guy. Have the circumstances been perfect? No, but you can't keep replaying the same thing forever, right? Eventually, if the results don't show up, and they designed the contract that they could make that move after this year if they wanted to, and we'll see what the Giants do after the year. But, they gave him another year with a better situation, and the results weren't what they needed to be.
Yeah, I wanted to give him a chance the best he could, but obviously it's the situation around him. But I feel like he was controlling the game well enough, but like his stats show from 2022, Saquon dominated the run game, and they weren't very pass-heavy. And would you say that this year is the most he's thrown it, like, over, like, the rush game? Would you say his pass attempts are off? Or would you say that's more because the Giants are trying to come back in these games?
Appreciate the call, Aiden. I like to look at what his average attempts are per game over the course of his career. I haven't done that.
I'll say that the Giants do rank the seventh most pass attempts so far this season.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
realize that. Okay.
Which obviously only a handful of those were Drew Lock in the one game he came up in mop-up duty.
So I would say that answer is probably yes then. So he's averaging 34 attempts per game this year. And just doing some quick back-of-napkin math. 2022, he was under 30 attempts per game. 2021, 11 games, 361 attempts. That's close. 2021 is actually close to what it was this year. Actually, in his rookie year, 459 attempts in 13 games. That's actually...
Pretty much was 12 games because that first game was week 1. He came in for
correct.
3 attempts.
So that would be... I think he averaged more attempts per game as a rookie, to be honest with you. If you do 12 games and the 460 attempts, I think that's... Goodness, that's almost 38 attempts per game, I think, as a rookie. If I'm doing my quick back and napkin
he was
math here.
slinging the ball in
He was. So, other than the 2019 rookie season, I believe, again, just doing my quick math here, I believe that is the most pass attempts he's had per game. So, and look, and we talked about that going into the year, right? That this was going to be a deal where they said, all right, we're going to put the ball in your hands, Daniel. We're going to see what you can do. And I thought the results were going to be much better. I really did, but it just hasn't worked out that way.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. And do you think the offense is going to change much with Tommy DeVito behind center?
No.
Neither do I.
I really don't.
I think they might lean into the run a little bit more, but in terms of how the pass game's structured, using some quarterback run stuff, some read option stuff, I think a lot of that's going to stay the same.
Yeah, I think so too. And, you and I had a conversation earlier this morning, and you mentioned Tommy might be a little more willing, or not, but a little more willing to check the ball down and get rid of it, as opposed to Daniel, who would tuck it and run probably more than we will see Tommy do. Not that Tommy won't run with the ball. He definitely will, a couple of times a game. He had one game in his stretch of starts last year where he had, I believe it was 10 rush attempts, but clearly Daniel Jones is more of a threat as a runner than Tommy DeVito is. So that is the one thing that, maybe check downs to Tracy or Singletary if he's in the game. If Theo Johnson or one of the tight ends is staying in to block and then, at the last second goes out, maybe he dumps it down to them. But other than maybe a handful of plays like that, I really think the offense is going to look pretty much the same.
We have an open line if you want to get in, guys. 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm curious to see how he handles the blitz package, because this is going to be such a heavy blitz package from Todd Bowles, and I'm sure with a young quarterback, it's going to be maybe even heavier than usual. And look, it's going to come down to, can these then wide receivers, and Slayton's going to be back from his concussion that he had, so he didn't play in Germany. Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot, and of course Malik Neighbors outside. Can these guys make the defensive backfield of the Bucs pay? If you want to beat the blitz, you're not going to beat the blitz with these little 5-6 yard passes, because if that's the punishment for sending 6 guys or doing a blitz 0, Todd Bowles is going to keep doing it. If it's like, all right, 5-6 yard gain, whatever, because the chance of getting a big play off of that is, I think, why you do it. You need to get some chunk plays off those blitzes to make them pay for trying to send all those guys.
Yeah.
You have to.
I'm with you.
I mean, that's how you're going to get them out of it. That's how you punish Todd Bowles for playing that way. And again, you look at the pass defense of the Bucs this year, bottom 3, bottom 4 in a lot of these rankings. Teams have been able to make them pay this year. Anthony in Florida's up next. Hey, Tony.
Oh, hey, John. How you guys doing?
We're good, man. What's up?
Good.
Is Matt there too?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, you guys were talking about like how hard it is to find the next quarterback.
Yeah.
And all that. And I already have the guys, if you want to know. I don't know. I know like you have that draft show that you have with the Tony Pauline guy.
Yep.
He didn't really talk about him much, but Jalen Milroe.
Oh, he loves Jalen Milroe. He loves Jalen.
Yeah, they talk about Shannon Sanders and Cam Ward. They can maybe go like 1-2 or high in the draft. But really, he's the third guy? Because in my eyes, he's my number one guy. I think he should be he's the guy that we should be targeting.
If I had to guess right now, Anthony, and I'm being serious, if I had to bet right now, and I could end up looking very stupid when all is said and done, I would not be shocked if Milroe got picked ahead of Shedeur Sanders this year. If he comes out. There's no guarantees coming out, but if he comes out, I would not be surprised by that.
I believe it, because I've been watching him for 2 years, and he's gotten better. And, like, this year they're running him more. Last year with Saban, he threw the ball a lot more. If you go back and watch the games, he threw the ball a lot. This year he's running. So he's the whole package. He could do everything. He could throw, he could run.
Oh, he is a lot. Now, Tony, Anthony, real quick. He has a lot of work to do as a passer now in terms of consistency and accuracy. They keep it very simple for him. It's kind of a one read and go type of offense. He is if you bring him in, you're looking at an Anthony Richardson type developmental path for him.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think he's a totally different quarterback than Anthony Richardson.
Why?
He's a way better athlete. He's way better than him. If you go back to last year and watch the film, he throws the ball all over. He throws the ball all over the field last year. This year they changed the coach, so he's running the ball more. But I'm telling you, as a passer, he could throw deep, middle, short. He's everything you want in a quarterback. Everything you want in a quarterback. In my opinion, I don't like to do this, comparing quarterbacks like pros to college quarterbacks, but he's like Lamar Jackson in my eyes. He's the next Lamar Jackson.
I think Lamar Jackson was a much more advanced passer than he was when he was coming out of Louisville, in my opinion.
I don't think so. I think Lamar's gotten better over the years passing.
Oh, no, Lamar's certainly gotten better over the years passing. I mean, you do realize, against LSU, 2 games ago, he threw for 109 yards. He threw for 215 yards against Mizzou.
And Lamar Jackson, in his last season at Louisville, he led the nation in passing yards.
Yeah, but you said he threw for 100 or whatever yards in the LSU game?
Yeah.
He also ran for almost 200 and 4 touchdowns.
Oh, no, I have, Anthony, I have no qualms about talking about his athleticism, his ability to run. He is a 4.3 athlete. He's fast. He can make plays with his legs. No disagreement at all there. He's phenomenal running the football.
John, I pray to God every day, I swear. I'm telling you, this is the guy. Because we may not have a shot to get the other two, we can have a shot to get him. I totally believe that if they play their cards right, this is the perfect guy that could change everybody's life. It could change the show. It could change Dable. It could change the owner. It could change everything.
All right, Anthony, real quick.
One guy
I totally get it. Real quick, I know you said he threw the ball over the field last year. How many games did Jalen Milroe throw for more than 260 yards last year?
I don't know the yardage, but
Once.
I know he threw more last year, though.
He threw for more than 260 yards once. In 13 games, he finished with 2,800 passing yards. Again,
all right, so,
no, Anthony, it's fine. No, but Anthony, look,
he is something else here.
No, but Anthony, real quick, look, I like Jalen Milroe as a player. Look, I think if you want to invest in him as a guy that is going to be ready to go in as a thrower in a few years, and you lean into his athleticism early in his career to make up for maybe some of the lack of passing polish, I think that's workable. Everything I hear and my experience, talking to people around, programs and stuff, he's an A+ dynamite personality kid. Like, he is phenomenal as a person. Great kid.
He's a great
kid. And he has all the tools as a passer. He's got a cannon. He's got a big arm. He's 220 pounds. The toolbox is full. It is a full toolbox. But in terms of how they're asking him to throw in the passing game, I do think there is some work and development still left to do there, in my opinion. And trust me, I've been wrong plenty about these quarterbacks, so I could very well be wrong about this. That's just my take. But look, if you were picking in the first round and you want to bet on his tool set, I would not have a problem with that.
From the Delta Sky Club
Welcome back, Miss Klein.
to the Jet Bridge, Delta Airlines relies on 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to power operations and serve customers faster. Together, we're putting 5G into the hands of ground staff so they can better assist on-the-go travelers with real-time information throughout the airport. This is elevating customer experience. This is Delta Airlines with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Yeah. And also too, last year he was the only quarterback to beat Georgia that prevented Georgia from making the playoffs.
Yep.
They knocked them out. And now this year he was the first team to beat Georgia again, even though Ole Miss did it. But he was the first quarterback to do it again. So he's played Georgia twice, beat them both times. And if you look at Cam Ward and Shanoir Sanders, Colorado, they don't play the teams that Alabama plays.
No, that's true.
They play the SEC schedule. He plays harder teams. He's just, to me, he's just a better quarterback. I think out of those guys, he's going to be the best guy.
Anthony, appreciate the call, man, and you could very well be right about that.
Yeah.
That would not, if we're talking 5 years down the road, and of those three, Jalen Milroe is the best quarterback in 5 years, that would not surprise me one bit.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I feel like pretty widely accepted that the top three quarterbacks in this upcoming draft, assuming they all go to the draft, in whatever order you want to put them, probably would be Sanders, Ward, and Milroe. Milroe, I think, as you said, is considered a little bit more of a project, someone that needs to be developed, which I don't think your comp to Anthony Richardson was that far off, honestly. I mean, they might have some, differences in their actual game, but just in terms of needing time to develop, I mean...
And Milroe has played a lot more games, and Richardson only had one season.
Richardson only had one game
Milroe's
as a
had
starter.
two.
But, I mean, we saw it last year. Richardson was very up and down before he got hurt. He obviously suffered the season-ending injury, didn't get a ton of playing time. And then we saw it again this year. He very up and down to a point where the Colts benched him. And, he just came back and looked great on Sunday, but still is clearly a guy that is developing and needs more time to grow in the NFL. And I can see Milroe, wherever he ends up, needing a similar sort of path and time.
Now, again, you could play him right away and lean into the running part of the deal, right? And make, use that and focus that as part of the deal, and you can create an offense around that. Like, that's very possible. Like, Josh Allen took a few years to develop, too. Like, it's okay. The quarterback does not have to be great right away. Like, yeah. I'm okay with that.
I'm of the mindset of, if you do draft a rookie quarterback, and we don't really see it that too often anymore in the NFL, bring in a bridge guy and let the rookie sit behind and learn from a veteran, whether it's for a full season, half a season, like
until he's ready. I think you put him in there when you think he's ready.
It's tough to throw a rookie in week one and expect them to succeed. Obviously, Jaden Daniels did it this year. Caleb Williams it's been a mixed bag. Drake May sat the first chunk of the season, and since he came in has looked pretty good. Bo Nix, again, started really slow and has picked it up in more recently. So that's just my belief. I don't think it benefits a rookie to be thrown into the fire right away. I know, obviously, it takes time to learn in the NFL. There's a learning curve. But we don't really see it too often anymore. But I feel like letting the guy sit behind a veteran, learn from the guy, kind of pick up the mental aspect of the game before throwing him right into the fire on the field, sort of the way to go.
I totally agree with you. I'm with you on that. And I don't know if it's a whole season necessarily, if you think the guy's ready
doesn't
earlier.
need to be a whole year.
But look, I said this on Tuesday when Paul and I, or maybe Monday when Paul and I got a call about this. Look, if you are in fact in the quarterback business next offseason, I'm throwing every resource at it you can, right? Bring in a veteran, draft somebody too. And if you don't have the opportunity to draft the guy you like, but to Anthony's point, guys, you might love a quarterback. Like last year, you might not have the opportunity to get him. Like, you don't know who's picking ahead of you, where you're picking, when these guys are going to go. All right, then maybe you pick somebody in the third or fourth round, and you give them a chance to compete in year one. And then you get to the next year, if they didn't show you enough, then you just draft somebody else. Do the Packers. Just keep drafting people until you find one. Like, that's okay. Like, that's how important the quarterback position is. So I think that's kind of how I would approach it. And, you just throw all the resources you have at this year and try to figure it out. That's it.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll, there's still 7 games left in this season. We'll see. Correct. A lot can happen. A lot can change. The draft order can and will change a good amount. So, we'll have to, revisit this conversation in about 2 months.
Let's go to Randy in California. He's up next. Hey, Randy.
Hey, guys. I haven't called in since the draft. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great, Randy. It's good to hear from you. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I've just been sitting here listening to Wilson and Charlie and everybody.
I'm sorry to hear that, Randy.
Yeah, I know. But, I was a little bit disappointed when they had Hard Knocks on and they didn't include those two.
Nah. I was quite happy when they didn't include. Do you really think those two need like a boost to their ego like that, Randy? It could be the worst possible thing that could happen to this program. Nobody needs that.
Yeah, but it would have been funny though.
It would have. Yes, it would have been funny.
Yeah. Hey, when is it exactly we mathematically eliminated for the playoffs? And if you had a choice between taking a quarterback and having to reach, in the draft, would you sign a veteran, try to find that route, or would you just try to hold off to the next draft if that quarterback's not there? And I appreciate you guys. You do a wonderful show. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Randy. Thanks for listening and checking us out. Look, don't pick a quarterback if you don't believe in him. Don't reach for a quarterback. If you're sitting there and you like a guy, you pick him. That's fine. But
trade up for him even if you need to.
Correct.
But only if you have conviction.
But don't, if you're sitting there, let's say the Giants are picking 7th and the 2 guys they like are gone, they couldn't trade up, and the 3rd guy's there and like, we really think he's more of a 2nd-round guy, but we need a quarterback. Don't pick him there. All right? Don't pick him there. That's how franchise is going the wrong direction. Find the guy you really like, target him, try to get him, and if you can't, you move on. That's why you have to get a veteran when you get the free agency, right? So you have that backstop there to protect yourself from being forced to select a quarterback.
Yes, definitely. And then just to the first question Randy asked, right now the 7th spot in the playoffs, the last wild card spot, belongs to the Commanders at 7-4, which puts the Giants 4.5 games behind the Commanders, but then Commanders also have the tiebreaker over the Giants.
The Commanders haven't had their bye yet, huh?
They have not had their bye yet. Okay. The Packers are also at 7 wins. They have had their bye. They're 7-3. So the Giants are 5 full games behind them with
7
games left.
So you're probably looking in about 3 weeks. You'll start talking about that magic number coming up, give or take, depending on how it goes. 201-939-4513. Jay in Georgia. Jay, how are you?
Yes, this is RJ in Georgia.
RJ, what's up, man? RJ,
all right.
How are you, man?
Yes, good, thank you, good. Hey, listen, I have a couple of things. One, I just want to take the time to thank Daniel Jones, for all of his time. It just didn't work out. He tried. He was a prolific quarterback. Things didn't work out. I know the fans are killing him. I'm one of them, too. But it's just time for him to move on. He will land on his feet somewhere else. But I wanted to take the time to thank him, and I think all of the fans that are really killing him should take the time to do that as well.
I appreciate that, RJ. Thank you.
Yeah, and the second thing is, if the Giants, if they don't select their quarterback, that they want, and we all know who they really want, if they're not available for one reason or another, I feel they should go after that kid from Missouri, Burden, the wide receiver, because now Malik Neighbors will have that Robin. He's the Batman. Burden could be the Robin, and I think that can energize our offense, moving forward in 2025.
Now, RJ, I don't have a problem picking a wide receiver. I don't. I would favor probably picking the Arizona kid because I think he's a different skill set than Burden is. He's kind of more that taller, ball winner, possession type guy, and and Burden I think is very similar to Malik in that they're both yards after the catch type of receiver. So if possible, now look, McMillan might get picked in the top 5, might not be there. I would probably prefer to try to pair McMillan with Neighbors just because I think their skill sets kind of complement each other a little bit.
Yeah, McMillan is 6'5".
He's big,
212 pounds. That is a big guy.
I haven't seen him. He's that good.
Yeah, Arizona. I believe he leads the nation in receiving yards right now.
Yeah, he's like a projected top 10 pick.
He's probably only going to run in the 4.5, so he's not a super fast guy, but he is big and he catches everything. When you get a chance, Teteroa McMillan from Arizona, do a little YouTube search and enjoy.
Yes, I will do that. And you know who will love him.
Oh, Paul Dottino.
Oh my
He's
Lord,
a skyscraper.
Man, he would be out of his mind if that dude came to the Giants.
Yes, but something tells me Paul's going to want to draft somebody in the trenches if they don't end up going quarterback, though. But we'll see. And this, by the way, is a very good trench draft. Like, if you want to draft a defensive tackle, this is a good year to draft a defensive tackle. It's actually
that guy from Michigan,
Mason Graham. Yeah, he's good. And and Kenneth Gant, his teammate, also he's a little bit later in the draft. But there are some good defensive tackles in this draft too, RJ. It's a good upfront draft on defense. Edge rushers, defensive linemen, and actually running back. It's actually a really good running back class. The Giants aren't going to need to go down that road because they found Tyrone Tracy last year, but it's actually a really good running back class too.
Right, that's awesome, man. And one more thing before I get off the air, I just want to thank you guys as well. You guys are doing a good job. I listened to your I listen to you every day. Sometimes I try not to listen to you, but my phone just automatically goes right to to the station. So you guys do a great job, and I definitely appreciate y'all.
No, RJ, if you want to start getting into the draft stuff, check out Draft Season, our draft podcast. It's on the Giants Total podcast feed, or just search for Draft Season. It's on that podcast feed too. Giants.com, Giants app, all that stuff. So if you want draft stuff, make sure you go check Draft Season out, and you'll know all about the draft long before everyone else starts paying attention to it in February and March.
Yes, and thank you for the kind words.
Yes.
We do appreciate that
Appreciate
very much.
it, RJ. Good stuff, man. 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513.
Not a surprise, but Travis Hunter, who is obviously projected to be one of the first picks in the draft, just confirmed that he is 100% going into the draft after the season.
Did he say he's a wide receiver or a cornerback?
He did not. I don't expect him to share that quite yet.
Yes.
I think he needs to figure out which route he wants to go down.
Yes.
I think he'll be pretty successful either one.
There is certainly more money at the wide receiver position, but I think there's more of a need at the cornerback
Does
position.
he have to declare?
No, he does not. He does not.
Can't teams just decide?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I guess combine, you have to
I'm sure
go in a group.
And maybe if he goes in both groups. Those groups do not work out on the same day, so you could have them they're a couple days apart, so he could do both workouts. Look, to me, I think the ideal position for him would be full-time corner and then play around 20 snaps at receiver again.
Yep.
So you get a little bit of both. It's hard to do full-time receiver and like 15 to 20 snaps at corner.
Yeah.
I think it's harder to be a part-time corner, easier to be a part-time receiver. So that's what I would lean towards for him. And I think that he would still get his money in that way. He would still get his maximum value.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you. I mean, he's a phenomenal player, phenomenal athlete. I tend to agree that I think he might be a slightly better corner than receiver.
Look at this way.
The money is there at the wide receiver position more so than the cornerback position.
If going into the draft, he says, I only want to play wide receiver, I don't think he's the first wide receiver taken.
I'm with you. I agree with that.
But if he says, I'm going to play corner and then dabble in wide receiver, then I think he will be the first skilled position player taken.
That's why I don't expect him to say that he's 100% playing one position or the other.
I think
for that exact reason.
And obviously, the higher you go, the more money you get. So
that is true.
Because I don't think he's going to run in the 4. I think he might be a low 4-5 guy too. Like he's not like you see him in these games. He's not like running away from people a ton. It's a lot of like tough catches, contested catches, things like that. So he's not. I don't think he's going to be like a speed demon where he's going to be like a 4. He could be a 4.46, 4.47 guy, something like that. Which by the way is more than fast enough. Like if you're in the 4.4s, you're fine. You have nothing to worry about. But even if you're in the low 4.5s, you're fine. Like AJ Green ran like a 4.54. He was one of the best deep threats in the NFL for 8 years. Like it's fine. But I don't think he's going to be one of these crazy like 4.35, 4.37 guys like we've seen in the past with some of these corners and receivers.
I don't think so either.
I was surprised. He's only listed at like 6'6'1".
6'1", 185 around.
He plays so much bigger than that. Like you watch him play, like he plays like a guy that's 6'3", 215 with the way he makes tough contested catches and stuff like that. So he's one of those guys that plays a lot bigger than his size might indicate. For me at least, watching him play.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I guess I was looking up. He's a little bit bigger than Devontae Smith.
Weight-wise.
Yes. And height-wise, Devontae is listed on the Eagles website at 6 feet, 170. So 6'1", 185, a little bit more on him, but that's still pretty.
And by the way,
still skinny.
For those of you that pay attention to this came out after we did our draft season last week. Shedeur Sanders committed to the Shrine game at that in Frisco. So if there was any doubt if I was going to go to Frisco this January, I'll be going to Frisco.
I feel like the Shrine game got a decent, like several Colorado players committing.
Including his brother.
Yeah.
So which tells me that's probably a package deal with all of them going down there. Eric Galko, who runs that, he's been on draft season with us a bunch. I'm sure he kind of talked to Colorado and said, look, I'll take all these guys if you want to give them to me. All right, cool. Let's do this. I think Jim, my guess is that Jim Nagy's a little pickier in terms of, what guys he's going to bring in.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But I'll probably end up doing the same old Frisco, Texas, which is a great setup for the East-West Shrine game. If you can go, fans, you can go to that too if you guys are down there. It's a real good setup down there. They give us really good access to the players. It's a lot of fun. And then right to Mobile. So that'll be about a week of watching guys on the field. So I've already gotten emails from those guys about getting credentials and everything. So
pre-draft process is going to be here before you know it.
I know. And guys, I don't want to do too much draft stuff on this show over the next month and a half. We still got 7 games left, and we're going to talk about the team. We have to talk about the team, especially some of the young guys that, the draft is great. You need the young guys on this roster, man, and we'll wrap up with this. just like heading into this year, the key to success with the Giants moving forward is the guys they've drafted the last 2 or 3 years becoming the foundation of this team. Like, you can't count on rookies to save you. You need the young guys that you've already drafted to step up and be those guys. So that'll be a very important thing to watch, I think, over these final 7 games.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, we've already seen through the first 10 games this year's rookie class show that they have a chance to be like a very impactful class for the future of the Giants. I mean, they already have 5 guys that are, I would consider, key contributors, starting at their positions and playing pretty dang well as well. And these last 7 games, obviously you want to see those guys continue to grow. Like, the player, at least the rookie that I am most excited to watch these next 7 games, Theo Johnson, because he's shown flashes that he could be the team's starting tight end for the future. And I like his game. He's got amazing size. I just want to see him continue to grow over these last 7 games to give, I guess, full confidence that going into next year, he can be that tight end 1. But not only the rookie class, I mean, you mentioned the 2022 draft class, the 2023 draft class. These 7 games are big for a lot of those guys to show that they just belong as part of this team's future. I mean, I know the top hottest name when it comes to this discussion, Evan Neal, who the one start he had the last time the Giants took the field against the Panthers, had one of his best games in the NFL. Played very well. Granted, it was against a Panthers team that does not have a particularly strong pass rush, but nonetheless, he had a lot of one-on-one matchups with Jadeveon Clowney, who is a proven NFL veteran who's had a lot of success in the NFL. Evan Neal held his own. These last 7 games are going to be very key for guys like Evan Neal. And I mean, you could go down the list of other guys in that 2022, 2023 draft class that maybe haven't quite lived up to expectations yet. But these last 7 games is pretty much a time for them to showcase what they can do and prove that they could and should be a part of this team's future.
Yeah, look, I'm excited to watch Tyrone Tracy, not because I need to learn anything about him. He's just fun.
Oh, he's so much fun.
He's just fun to watch, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to throw a name out there that Giant fans might give a guffaw about. Malik Neighbors, since he came back from his concussion. Game high for receiving yards is 71 yards. That's it. He has not had a reception of more than 20 yards since the concussion. Let's see some more explosive plays. Whether it's run after the catch, stuff over the top. I want to see a few more explosive plays out of Malik Neighbors. He has the last 4 games. Look, he has 6 catches, 9 catches, 7 catches, 4 catches. Good numbers. But he hasn't averaged more than 11 yards per catch in any of those games. 10, 10, 6.6, and 8.3. And again, does not have a catch of 20 or more yards. I want to see some of those explosive plays start coming back a little bit. We haven't had enough of those. I want to see a couple more.
I'm with you. And I think a big part of that, I don't think it has anything necessarily to do with the concussion. I just think...
Oh, no, neither do I. I was just using that as a line of demarcation.
No, that is a good line because I think in those 4 games, the 4 games before versus the 4 games after, you've seen opposing defenses sort of change the way that they line up and try to match up against Malik Neighbors. I mean, the first 4 games of the season, you have the numbers there, especially the 2 games against Dallas and Washington, 115 yards or more. 127 against the Commanders, 115 against the Cowboys. I mean, and then the Browns game, 2 touchdowns. Like, he was going off. And I think it was because it was the first 4 games of his career, and defenses didn't quite, I guess, know what fully he could do and didn't know how to really match up against him. Now defenses are starting to figure it out, and I'm with you. I mean, we obviously know what he can do. We've seen it already. He has the potential to be one of the best receivers in the NFL. These last 7 games, despite, the quarterback situation being what it is, I'm with you. I would like to see, he doesn't have to have over 100 yards in every game. I mean, I would love to see that, obviously, but realistically, I don't think any NFL receiver could be expected to do that. But have some, as you said, some explosive plays, because if he gets those explosive plays, you'll start to see those final receiving yard numbers being 100+ yards in a game if he can get some of those explosive plays.
I'm with you. Citak, good stuff. Matt will be back with the Tino tomorrow on Big Blue Kickoff live at 12:30, doing a full preview of Giants and Bucs. For Citak, I'm Schmeelk. Thank you to Pearson. We'll see you tomorrow on Big Blue Kickoff live.
Imagine relying on a dozen different software programs to run your business, none of which are connected, and each one more expensive and more complicated than the last. It can be pretty stressful. Now, imagine Odoo. Odoo has all the programs you'll ever need, and they're all connected on one platform. Doesn't Odoo sound amazing? Let Odoo harmonize your business with simple, efficient software that can handle everything for a fraction of the price. Sign up today at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Wake up at Holiday Inn Express to a can't-miss breakfast that's free with every stay. Count on all the hot, fresh coffee you need and an incredible breakfast buffet that has something for everyone, like eggs, cinnamon rolls, and even hot, fresh pancakes with all the toppings you crave. Next time, do yourself a favor and stay at a Holiday Inn Express with a can't-miss breakfast that's free with every stay. So, when you wake up at Holiday Inn Express, you'll wake up happy. A part of IHG Hotels and Resorts.